Good morning. I am looking out over the most lovely field. I'm going to do a video on the things I've learned about being creative in the long term and being an artist, which I struggled to call myself for a long time, but it is what I am. So let's go. I'm at a rewilding nature reserve in Devon. This is the beaver cabin and this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can hear the bird song, but it's very nice. We're going to put on a cup of tea and discuss creative mindset shifts. This is my first YouTube video. I felt like a block towards it because I think one of the biggest shifts I've learned in the past 2 years has been that the first thing you do is always the hardest, and you will have a million blocks and reasons, and it will bring up loads of emotions of childhood, putting yourself out there, fears, inner critic, craziness, and the only thing you can actually do is just do it. And here I am. I'm making a cup of tea in this little cabin. It's really cute. So if you don't know me already, I'm Essie and I have an artist project, like a music one. But I also, for a living, do social media and have made many people go viral, including myself at times. I've worked for brands like Finisterre. I've made videos for Hydro Flask, Osprey, my partner, Tom's Fair Outdoors. Big deal. And that was frightening. So I feel like a lot of people often ask me about how to go viral. And what I will say is that what I have learned in the past 2 years is that going viral is great. Live, laugh, love. It does do a lot for you. People will say it doesn't, but it does. But I think for me, having done many different things within the arts, I was trained as an actor for a while, throwback, and now I do music. And I think what I notice is that the best thing you can do for your art and your creativity is keep going. And so all these tips or things I've learned are basically ways to help yourself keep going, because that's the only thing you can control. You can't control whether you go viral. You can't control whether you make a piece of art that loads of people resonate with. But what you can control is that you carry on. By carrying on, you give yourself endless opportunities to connect with people. Whereas if you stop, you give yourself no opportunities to connect with people. These are all little mindset shifts that I found have helped me to carry on. And some of them feel a little bit woo-woo. I do think I'm kind of like an energy person. And I do believe that your creativity and your energy as a person and what you're giving off are very connected. And I don't really know why, but they are. I've definitely felt like the times where I've felt the most that things are connecting and going well have been to do with energy. And so some of these might be a little bit woo-woo, but take of it what you will. Okay, let's start with number one. I think that a lot of people go into the arts because they want recognition, for who they are as a person, and to feel fulfilled by other people seeing them and reflecting that back. And what I will say is that recognition does not happen for a long time. The kettle's going off. Unless you have some kind of fast track to connection. Maybe you have some money. Maybe you have people around you that have connections. But for most of us, it will be a long haul. I think there comes a time where you have to acknowledge that recognition is not going to come straight away. And I feel like that's a place where a lot of people give up. And they go, God, I'm not being recognised, my abilities, I thought I believed in myself. And if people aren't recognising them, they see that as a sign that they're not good enough or good or talented. I can certainly relate to that. I really struggled with that for a long time, feeling like I wanted other people's approval to prove to me either that I was good or bad. And what I've learned is that the people who are able to continue are the people that find a way to recognise themselves and to affirm themselves. The best thing I think you can do is to build a list of things that if you're doing them, you'll feel proud of yourself, or you'll feel like that is when I feel closest to my art or my creativity. And for me, I think honesty is one of those things. If I'm being honest, if what I'm doing is funny, if what I'm doing makes me laugh, laughing is a big litmus test for me in my creativity. If I'm enjoying it, that is great. And I think it's connecting with this, something in your core that's this feels like I'm on the right line. The people that are able to carry on are the people that prioritize that line of their connection to what they're creating above someone else connecting. The other thing that I would say is that when we're looking for recognition from other people, it often feels like anyone will do. And therefore, anyone's insults will also affect you if you're being that broad about it. And I really struggled last year with feeling like there were just some people that didn't get what I was doing and feeling like it was really knocking me back. I was having some trolling. Thank you to that man in my small town who decided to troll me one weekend. That did make me cry. But my friend Lucy said something which was Essie, write down who this is for. Who is this art for? And I think sometimes that as an artist, you can push away from that because you're oh, I don't want to make myself a brand or market myself too much. I found it so freeing. Then I didn't care at all that the men down the pub did not get my artist project. because it's not for them. The artist project I make is for the artsy, crafty girls, gays and theys that work in cafes, that feel like they have potential, feel that their creativity matters perhaps more than everything else, and that connection to community and being truthful and honest and yourself is the most important thing. And therefore I don't care anymore about the men in my small town that troll me online, because it's not for them. It also means that sometimes people will come up to me and say, that song, that's the best one, that should be the single. And you just have this knowledge of like, I know who this is for. And if it's not that person, it doesn't throw you off kilter. And that is so helpful. So that's my first one. It's a very roundabout way of saying your validation is the most important. And that is the only line that you can trust, because whatever you do, sign with a record label, whatever you do, write a book, the only person who is going to be there on the other side of that is you. And if your connection to yourself is bad, as soon as someone drops you, as soon as someone leaves your life or is no longer able to support what you're doing or anything happens, you need to have yourself. So I firmly believe that the best way to keep yourself going as an artist is to keep that connection to yourself as like sacred. Okay, number 2, I'll make a cup of tea. I love these teas, by the way. They're delicious. ASMR. Okay, so many things that can stop you from carrying on as an artist. I think a lot of those, as I said, revolve around, oh my God, I can see some horses. I'm just going to show you. Oh my God. What? Okay, sorry. In a lot of these industries, it feels like there is a traditional way to do things, or there is a real vision of success. In music, we have the vision of success would be Chappell Roan or Taylor Swift. In acting, the vision of success would be Florence Pugh. They're these people that walk the Hollywood Walk of Fame, these people that have huge careers, and we only see them when they're at the top. We didn't see half the things that happened on their way up. And what I would say is that that is a beautiful vision of success if that's what you want. Don't ever rob yourself of other moments of success because you're just looking at these huge ones. Take a look at yourself, what you like, what you don't like, and be so clear about what your path is, because with all of these industries, it basically just feels like an ever receding horizon where you're always walking towards it. Maybe it's like always looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and never actually finding it. If you don't have a clear vision of where you want to go, the next thing will just feel like more important than the one you just achieved, and you can really easily lose sight of the most incredible things that you do and feel demoralized and then stop. Something I have thought a lot about over the past 2 years is building myself a vision of success that is sacred to me and specific to me. So for example, for me, I don't really have control over whether I get a label deal or whether I get a spot on a red carpet, or those things are like, they're very much goals that someone else has to give me. And so what I have done in the past 2 years that's made me feel confident to carry on is to make sure that at least 80% of my goals revolve around something that I can do for myself. For example, I want to go on a tour. I can book that for myself. I want to do merch collabs with women-owned businesses. I can do that for myself. I want to feel like there's a sense of community around my art. I can run events that do that, give people the chance to like creatively give back. Like all these things are within my remit that I can actually do. If I'm not clear about them, I won't do them. But if I'm clear about them and if I write them down and I say like, this is what I really want to feel from my art this year, I can make that happen. And then that fills my cup so much and means that I can carry on, even if I don't get, say, the 20% of goals that require someone else to validate me. And I think when that shift is off, when the 80 and the 20 are off, and all of your goals revolve around someone else giving you a slot at a festival, someone else giving you something, your cup does not get filled, and your entire vision for your art can be based on someone else's perception of you, which is the killer. Comparison, rejection are the almost guarantees of being in an artistic career, because there are not enough jobs and opportunities for everyone. So you will constantly be told you're not quite the right fit for something, but what you can do is change how you perceive them. You need to deal with what is within your control. With comparison, I think that if you have a really clear vision of what success looks like for you, and 80% of that is within your remit, you do stop comparing, because you have this vision for yourself that's like, I know what I want to be doing. It's okay if someone else got an opportunity that was different. I also think there's a little hack there of like, maybe people have their own way of doing this, but my way of doing it is like, okay, it wasn't meant for me. Something that is good for me is going to be meant for me, and it's going to come, and it's fine. And I'm so excited that that was meant for them. And that's maybe like a spiritual way of being like, I'm just going to deflect that like feeling of comparison, because what does it do? What does it serve me? I know I feel it sometimes, but like going down that rabbit hole isn't going to do anything for me. So if I can just like spiritually woo that away, I'm going to do it. And it doesn't mean you're not being honest. It just means that you're like, I'm going to put into myself good energy and trust that I will find something else. I also got the best advice of my life when I was in drama school, which was someone who said to me, when you start comparing yourself, just remind yourself to stay in your lane and trust that your lane is perfectly spaced for you. And I didn't really know how to take that at the time because I didn't know what my lane was. And I felt like, how am I supposed to stay in my lane? I don't know who I am. And I think doing the hard work of figuring out what your lane is, what your goals are, what your vision of success is, how you want to feel for the next year as an artist, what's going to bring you fulfillment, is figuring out your lane. And then when someone else gets something that you kind of wanted or you didn't know you wanted, but when they got it, you realized you didn't want it, you go, oh my God, head down, stay in my lane. I am doing what is going to be fulfilling and good for me. Trusting yourself that you can bring what is fulfilling and good for you. And then secondly is rejection. And I think this is really hard because it happens all the time, particularly in industries like acting. What I will say, there's two things that I will say about rejection. One, since working in the big, wide corporate working world and being behind shoots and casting campaigns, it is rarely ever personal. It's rarely ever about your take on a character. It's actually usually just about the mix of the people that are going to be on that shoot and whether it feels like there's a good balance of people. It's sometimes about the costs and like, does that person need more? Not hair and makeup, but like, do they need a wig? Like a wig costs $4,000. Sometimes it's literally down to the shoe size. Like they only have one pair of shoes for this character and it's a size 4. So if there's a size 4 there and they don't have to spend £200 to get a new one, cast that person. And you never know what these decisions are. What you do have control over is what you layer on top of the rejection. If you get a rejection through and you go, it's because I wasn't good enough at acting or because I wasn't a good enough singer, that is you layering meaning onto something, and you have to learn to stop. You have to learn to recognize when you have layered meaning onto something and learn to recognize when that is not serving you. And if it's helpful, again, layer meaning onto it that helps you, because you layer meaning onto it that says you're not talented, you're not good enough. The only person that hurts is you. The only person that knows about it is you. So layer on something that helps you carry on. Go, it wasn't meant for me because there's going to be an opportunity at that time of year that's going to open up something else for me. Layer on a little delusional meaning. Why not? No one else knows. And your priority is keeping yourself going during this absolute chaotic time of working in the arts. So layer on something that means that you trust yourself more. That's one. Number 2, rejection. It is going to happen. The more that you make rejection inevitable, and the less you attach yourself to an outcome that is not yet, the less it will hurt. And the more you see it as like almost like you could make a tally in your bedroom and be like, a rejection, ha ha ha, done. And then next to that tally, you could put something that's like, okay, something I did to affirm myself, to like affirm my art, myself, outside of the rejection of someone else. And I think that is the most powerful thing you can do, is take accountability for your own cup being filled. Like someone else rejected you and it felt like a little bit of water got poured out of your cup in that day. What are you going to do to top it up? If you just keep letting people like pour it out and then being like, the rejection is too much for me, you are neglecting your own responsibility to top up that cup, because you are in charge of yourself, you're in charge of your human form, and you're in charge of knowing when something's taken out of it. So if it works to write a tally on your wall where you like write a line when you get rejected and then you write a line when you affirm yourself, and you do something that like builds your creativity up, like going to a gallery, going to a bookshop, sketching in public, going for a photography walk, doing something free that inspires you, that will be the most game-changing thing. And I think a lot of these points come down to taking responsibility for your own creativity and affirming it in yourself and trusting that you deserve to get better and get good. And the other thing I will say about rejection is, if you get feedback that is negative or is like not what you wanted, the instinct is to go, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. And then either go, they were completely wrong, or to go, oh my God, they were completely right and I should never make art again. Neither of those responses are logical. Think about when you say something to someone and they go, I'm just a bad person, I can never do anything right. Like, that is the least helpful response. So don't do that in the face of rejection. What I will say is write down the feedback, let yourself recover, top up your cup, and then come back to it. What about this do I think is really helpful? And what about this do I think is not helpful at all and potentially just subjective? And underline it and go, okay, cool. The feedback about like the fact that I hit some bum notes or I missed some notes on my guitar is actually really helpful, and there's some actionable things I can do to change that. I'm going to rehearse more. I'm going to book a guitar lesson. I'm going to take these proactive steps to actually help myself. And this feedback about how they didn't like something is subjective, and I'm going to either let that wash away, or I'm going to transform that little bit of feedback that I feel is subjective and misunderstands me, and I'm going to make it my superpower. And I'm going to go, do you know what? They didn't like my nose because it doesn't conform. I'm going to make my nose the focal point of my next photo shoot, and I'm going to learn to be so proud of it that it becomes the most unique thing about me. Flip it on its head. You always have control of seeing what they see as a weakness as your strength. if that's something they noticed about you, whatever they said, it's unique enough for them to notice. And so why not lean into it being something that could be super special and different about you? Those are my bits of feedback for getting rejection. The most important thing is head down, let yourself recover, and on to the next. Always on to the next. We're on to the next thing, but I feel like I could have done this in such a more organized way, and I was tempted just now to restart the whole thing. But it's my first YouTube video, and that brings me to a key point, which is that prioritize trying and doing the thing anyway over making it perfect. There'll be so many times when you start something that you just want to restart it all and do it all again, and sometimes that can be a bit of self-sabotage. So we move. I've made notes. We've got 3 more things to go. Number 1, sometimes people push against the tide of seeing themselves as a business because they want to be an artist, and that is so fine if you want to be an artist. If you just want art to be something that you do that is you don't have to think about the commercial element for it, you don't have to think about your audience or who's going to buy it or making money off it, and that is amazing. However, if you want to do this in a commercial way, it to provide an income for you in some capacity, I find it really helpful to sometimes take the personal element out of it and see it as a business, because ultimately I know I want to be doing it long term if I want to make money off it. That's not necessarily a negative thing, and it can actually help you to keep yourself going long term. If you were a coffee shop on a high street, you would need to make sure you topped up your coffee beans regularly, you kept everything clean and looked after it, you would check what your customers were thinking, you would market it on social media to make sure you got the footfall you needed. So sometimes it's just good to think of it like that. Instead of coffee beans, you need to top up your creativity. You need to make sure that you are feeding yourself with ideas, inspiration, things that are going to make you make good art. If you're a coffee shop on a high street, you would have targets for the year in terms of money. And I'm not saying as an artist you want that, because sometimes you can't control those things. But what I would say is you want to be honest about what you can and can't do. If you were running a coffee shop on a high street, you would know there was no point in marketing to someone in Australia because they would not be able to reach your high street in North Cornwall. And that brings me to one of my points, which I think is to be really honest about your goals and what is your current reality. We're going back to that idea of the ever receding horizon. I've had friends talk to me about the fact that they don't feel that music is going well. And then when you talk to them, you're like, but you have various commitments in your life that you love and that are important to you. That would mean you cannot go and do those things that are your goals. And so therefore you're feeling this constant push and pull of feeling like you're not good enough. But even if you had those things, you wouldn't be able to do them because you have kids or you have this thing that you love doing in this specific area of the country and you cannot be on tour. So I think what is really helpful is to be honest about your current reality. A priority for me is making sure that I come back to myself in nature and in my local community. And so therefore, I am not going to set myself the goal of becoming Chapel Roan because that queen ain't never at home. It's important that your goals assess the life you actually want. One of the things we did at one of the jobs I worked at Finisterre was to do a 5-year plan. And they really encouraged us to not put a job we wanted at the end of the 5-year plan. What they asked us to do was to put a lifestyle at the end of the 5-year plan, and to be like, when you picture yourself in 5 years' time, you sit there. Where are you? Where are you sitting? Who is there? What do you get up and go do because you're excited? And for me, I wanted to be in a little garden in my own home with a studio in the garden with Tom, my partner, coming to bring me a cup of tea, and paint sheets around me and an album on the way and beautiful sunlit Cornwall garden. And therefore I need to make sure that the opportunities I go for align with making that happen. And I think there are obviously so many barriers. There's so many different barriers for different people. It's different for everyone, the way you would get somewhere, but you cannot get where you want to go first without acknowledging where you want to go and being clear about it. And also by continuously focusing on the barriers instead of focusing on the affirmative action you're going to take yourself somewhere. So something I always say is to do a night of delusion. Sit down with yourself and be like, I know I'm fully aware of the barriers of money, of time, having kids, of having, all these things. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go, if money wasn't a barrier, if this wasn't a barrier, what would be my delusional reality? And then work backwards from that. Final things I will say, when you start making something, putting yourself out there, sharing something you want to do, a lot of people will not get it, and some people might say mean things. A little hack, a little mindset hack I have been employing myself over the past 2 years has been to learn to flirt with being underestimated. Only you know how beautiful the thing you is are doing and how much it energizes you. And there are going to be people that don't get it or make little comments like, oh, your little videos, or oh, your little music project. And I've just come to be like, when they say that, I just go and I just think, love being underestimated. How fun, I'll get to prove you wrong. Keep your mindset one that is no one will ever know how much you can do, how much they can do. So just trust yourself that you'll be able to prove someone wrong that underestimates you. And the more you do prove someone wrong that underestimates you, the more confidence you'll build back. And the last things I will say, I've heard this said a million times, you are the most unique source of inspiration you'll ever have. Only you have your exact experiences. Only you grew up in that house that you grew up in that specific role in your family, the comparison and the rejection feel a lot less horrible when you are drawing from a well that is completely unique. In the past 2 years, I've had like various people copy my ideas. And the first time that happened, I felt horrible. I felt so sad because I was like, oh my God, they're taking from me something that like I've uniquely thought of. And then I realized what is the amazing thing about that is that like I could just do it again. I uniquely came up with that idea and it was worth stealing or worth copying. Then I can do it again and I can make up something that's unique and maybe someone will steal it again and then I'll just go again. When your well is yourself and you are filling up that creativity, that well won't run dry. So trust that you can do that. And I think also when you compare yourself to other people, you often think if I just did what they're doing, then I would do well. And it's like often when people are doing well, it's because they're being totally themselves. And your version of that is going to look completely different. And your job is to drill down and to find out what that version is for you, not to replicate what that version is for them. Another thing I will say is that you will learn what makes you unique by doing it. Everybody wants to start out an artistic journey by having the perfect model that then they can replicate. Unfortunately, you learn by doing. Some of the most unique things about my artist project now are because I was playing at an open mic and someone came up to me and said, oh my God, your song sounded so like gossipy. I loved it. And I was like, oh my God, I love that. I'm going to make things more gossipy. Don't be afraid of learning by trying. Don't be afraid of not being complete yet or ready, but let yourself refine as you go. If you think about like Sabrina Carpenter, when she started out, she's been going for like 15 years or something. Her stuff has got more defined as she's gone. Only now has she really found that like unique look that everyone knows her for. Don't stop yourself from beautiful potential by not trying. And the final thing I will say is that I did not do anything within the realms of putting myself out there creatively in the way that I'm doing now till I was 28 years old. And so much of that was because I was extremely stressed by rent in London when I lived there for 10 years. I had a huge lack of self-belief because I felt that I wasn't cool enough. And I felt that other people, I felt that they were uniquely out of the womb an artist. They believed it. I've learned now is that a lot of those people actually had a lot of money growing up and could afford art lessons, music lessons that I didn't get access to. They didn't come out of the womb as an artist. They were invested in younger. And now as an adult, I've learned to invest in myself. And for me, that looked like getting a full-time job where on the side, I could then invest into my artist self. And that changed my life. And then I was able to go, like 5 years after that, I was able to go freelance. And now I'm able to do music and art much more full-time. I also think, and this is my final tip actually, I've changed my mind. The happiest artists I know, the happiest creatives I know, are the people who love their life, not just their art. And that is something I've tried to lean into a lot in the past 2 years, building a life for myself that I like, so that when rejection comes and comparison comes, I don't feel like I'm lacking anything because I'm happy. I've built a life for myself where I can go for a little swim, my local beach some days, or I can go for a walk in nature. I have a really nice partner who I love. I have friends that I like. I have a little dog. Therefore, when rejection comes, it doesn't really feel like it hits me because what could be better than what I have? And also, when someone offers you an opportunity, you are not going to settle for scraps because you like your life. I often think if a record label came and offered me a crappy deal, I know I wouldn't take it because I like my life. And therefore, you will wait for the deal that actually honours your craft. So that was a bit of a tangle of thoughts, but I really hope that you find them helpful, and thanks for watching my first little vloggy YouTube moment and for enjoying the buffaloes and the horses with me. Essie Sparrow. My new song, Weddings and Funerals, is out very soon. Bye!